Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited to have you on this Happy to Be Alive Saturday. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So my name is Lakaija Lang, and I am the president of the National Association for Multi-Ethnicity in Communications Virginia chapter. Our mission at NAMIC is to educate, advocate, and empower for multi-ethnicity in the communications industry by elevating our shared voices. We are super excited to continue our partnership with Verlaine and the Connect 757. Verlaine, tell them a little bit about you and your organization.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Verlaine Quinney. I'm the founder of the Connect 757. We're the social network for Hampton Roads Black young professionals. And so that's exactly what our focus is creatively connecting Black professionals throughout the 757. So we do that in a variety of ways by supporting small businesses, partnering with organizations like NAMIC, obviously doing social events in person pre-COVID, but now we've been doing a lot of virtual events. So I would love to have you guys reach out, learn more about us, and feel free to reach out and ask questions if you have any.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we certainly appreciate the partnership. We have some dynamic speakers as well. I'll let Verlaine introduce our panelists or our speakers today, but I want you all to know this is a very casual conversation. We want the dialogue to be back and forth. This is all about getting your hustle on. So I found the definition of hustle online, and it says, to hustle is to have the courage, confidence, self-belief, and self-determination to go after your dreams. Do we all have these traits? I know I do. So let's get ready to get our hustle on. So Verlaine, if you want to go ahead and introduce who we have today, and then we'll get the conversation started.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through, and we do have our speakers just doing a very brief self-introduction, but I want to go ahead and open it up and invite Amber to go first. Amber Rice.
Everyone, I'm so excited to be here today. My name is Amber Rice, and I'm a small business banker at Old Point National Bank. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, this is my 24th year in banking. So I started when I was 10, and I've been with Old Point for 2 years, but I came from a very large bank for 22 years. And it's a blessing to be here with a community bank. I've done everything from retail lending, management. I've managed branches all over Hampton Roads, and I've been in outbound sales roles, but my true passion is small business. So I love to educate small businesses on ways to be more efficient. I love to talk to startups and give them good advice as to whether or not it's a good venture for them and what their next steps would be to get started. So thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you, Amber. Next up, we have Domenick Epps.
All right, boom! What's going on, everybody? My name is Domenick Epps, and I am co-founder, co-owner of Wall Street Café, as well as Victorial Leaders Realty. And there's a slew of other businesses that we own and manage. I'm excited to be with you all today and looking forward to assisting you all and getting your hustle on. So looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Domenick. And go ahead, Josh.
All right, thank you. Good morning. And good morning, bright and early from the West Coast. My name is Josh Green, and I am with the Virginia SBDC's ICAP program. And we work with early stage early stage startups in the technology and innovation space. And my background is I've been working throughout my career on building and growing organizations, both in the nonprofit and private sector across the United States. And I am very excited to be here with everybody.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you guys as well. Just a quick reminder for our guests as well. If you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We do want to keep it conversational so that if you guys have questions, we're definitely pulling from those so that we can give them to the panel and they can address anything that you guys have. We wanted to make sure that this was really geared towards the attendees and answering questions that you guys have for your businesses. So we're going to go ahead and open up. And each of our guests are gonna just kind of share some advice in terms of the realm that they work in. So Amber, I'm gonna go ahead and start with you first.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so what I enjoy is when a business owner or someone who's just launching their business comes to me and asks, Amber, what can I do to start my business and be successful and or get a loan to help me start my business? So what I'm going to start with is how truly important it is to have a plan in place. Having a business plan and projections for your business is a very big deal. You may be truly, truly good at something and have a passion for it, but having a business plan in place is huge. I would recommend a couple of places to create a business plan. The first would be, and I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it, is score.org, SCORE.org. Score.org is a national nonprofit organization based out of Herndon, Virginia, but they specialize in having C-suite volunteers. So folks who were former CFOs, CEOs, and so forth that mentor, and it's free. So you can go to their site, you can create a business plan, you can create projections, you can attend workshops and gain a mentor. So that's where I would truly start if you're looking to start a business. The next thing is once you create your name and you know what you're going to name your business, is to legalize your business and to make it separate from being a sole proprietorship. So if you operate your business under your social and not separate it and make an LLC, a limited liability company, or a corporation, you have that capacity to be sued or to, have some legal ramifications if anyone were to dispute your services. Or so definitely create an entity for your business. It's relatively cheap. You can do it for a couple $100. Get a CPA, get a lawyer. It's worth the small investment to do those things. Or LegalZoom is awesome as well. It just honestly is more expensive than hiring someone outright. So those are some really good pointers I wanted to start with. There also here on the peninsula in Newport News, we have, and I'm sure in all of your areas you have that as well. There's a small business development center that here it's with our workforce development center, and they will sit with you and go through your business plan and link you to a banker, or find a wonderful banker, someone who you trust that isn't just trying to talk to you about services, but give you the advice that you need. And then I would make sure you have enough capital to start your business. That's a big deal. If by chance you're offering, or you're going to have inventory or retail inventory or supplies or food, try to have about 6 months of capital, of cash in an account or somewhere to get started. And your local economic development authority is a good resource to get information. So I'm very resourceful. So I love to share different resources and avenues you can go. Yeah.
I believe we have a question on one of the that you just mentioned. Takanya, do we have a question?
Yes. So how long should we plan in order to create the business plan?
Honestly, what I would do is make sure, that's kind of I'd say with that question, it's kind of hard to determine. If you're really good with your services, but you may not be very business savvy or number savvy, you want to definitely find a partner that can help you with that. There isn't really a time frame. If you're selling something online and you want to legitimize your business or make it something else or make it more, you can create your business and start it. But before you move too far, you definitely want to legalize it and create a plan. And before you get lending, Sequana, definitely have a plan in place. Bankers are always going to look for a business plan for any business that's less than 2 years old. So I hope that answers your question a little bit.
And Amber, when you say make sure you have capital, what does that mean?
Capital is liquid, so cash to be able to fund your expenses, cash in case there's an unexpected event. You know how some of the investor folks will tell you to keep so much in a, fund or in a savings account for emergencies, same type thing. So just have 6 months worth. And, if you come to a bank and you're looking for a loan and we see, you have just a couple $1,000s in the bank and your new business is going to take away from your current job. And it's all very risky for us to be able to assist you with a loan. So the more you can save and the more you can create a plan up front, the more successful you're going to be. One other note, if by chance you need a loan or you need some capital to go along with what you have on your own, SBA, the Small Business Administration, has some wonderful options. One of them is called an SBA Express loan. And again, you have to have a business plan in place. But they will put a 50% security on the loan. So if you need $20,000, the SBA will back the loan for 10. So that's a good option for you. But again, you do have to have a well executed plan in place to be able to do that. The other thing I do for customers is help them get a bank card, a credit card for the business. So if I wanted to open Amber's Boutique, I would just apply for a business bank card under Amber's Boutique with that tax ID number for maybe $5,000. And it's much easier to get that to start up than it is a physical loan. So I do that for my customers all the time. And a lot of bankers just don't think about that, but that's a wonderful way to kind of continue to keep your business separate, help you, have some capital to get moving. And so it's just a matter of finding good resources and good mentors and do your homework and make sure you know your numbers as well.
I had a quick, go ahead, Lakeisha.
Sorry, there's a question to Kanya, I believe, about getting started.
Yes. How do you recommend starting a small business as a side hustle and balance it without affecting your main source of income?
Okay, I'm very glad that you brought that up because, and that's tough. If you're an entrepreneur, you love business, whether it be you want to have your restaurant, you want to have a store, you want to have you have that spirit about you. So that's your passion. Definitely put the majority of your focus on where your current largest income source is coming from until your other one starts taking off, if that makes any sense. So don't leave your primary role, don't leave your primary job until your other ventures are taking off. Because, for instance, if you come to me for a loan, I'm going to look at your primary source of income. And the best opportunities are for those who, for instance, I'll have some folks that may work at NASA or Cox, and they'll come to me and they're starting their business and they're thinking about leaving their primary job. And no, don't leave yet, don't leave yet. Keep that primary source of income. It's huge until your next business is showing a really good return and your net income numbers are going up and you're making enough income to support yourself. So I know that that may be hard, especially if you have a lot of different ventures, but focus on just a few, because what I'll see is that sometimes folks are pulled in so many directions that can be considered kind of risky from our standpoint in banking as well. So focus on one or two things, try not to do 10, but it's hard when you have that entrepreneurial spirit. So.
Did either of the other panelists want to add on to that by any chance?
Sure, I'll jump in on that idea. Ultimately, to me, it comes down to time management and what is worth your time. If you really want to move forward, then you're going to find the time. And that's, speaking to Amber, talking about entrepreneurial spirit, for myself, I'm part of a number of different organizations, both in a business venture and volunteer capacity outside of my full-time job. And it's a matter of prioritizing between each thing I'm doing. And if one thing ends up not being as important, you let it go. And also making sure that you're spending time to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because I think a lot of people put that as a backseat item and it catches up to you very quickly. So just making sure that you know that you have a plan for how you're going to make it all work so that you don't get overwhelmed.
Awesome.
All right. Takanya, any questions for the panelists?
Yes. How do you determine whether your idea should be kept as a hobby or transition to a business?
I'm a numbers person. So look at your numbers, look and see if you're able to generate the income to support yourself and to make it more than what it is as a hobby. And make sure you do have some really good business background, research the industry, know your competitors, look at the competition. Before you take it from a hobby to a business, you want to definitely make sure that it is worth your while and that you can generate income from it.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber. We're going to go ahead and transition to Josh and talking about ICAP and SBDC and kind of sharing what people should be doing early on, especially in the ideation phase, and anything else that you wanted to add.
Sure, absolutely. So thank you very much. The program, like I mentioned, I'm part of is the Innovation Commercialization Assistance Program, and that's run out of George Mason University and the Virginia Small Business Development Center Network. The companies that we work with are early stage startups that are focused on technology or innovation, and it's centered around one-on-one advising from our team of highly successful intrapreneurs or entrepreneurs. And we are a separate group from the main SBDC offices, which are all local, and we are run out of a state office. So to Amber's point, when you're looking to make some of those key decisions, make sure that you're getting some unbiased advice from somebody from the SBDC or SCORE, local chamber of commerce, making sure that you're not just going into the wind if you have not done this kind of work before. For our program, we follow lean startup-based practices, which is heavily focused on understanding the market and your customer. And the work that we're trying to do is help individuals validate a business model and create a go-to-market strategy. And then we'll continue to work with them through investment and early scaling. The program is based off of introducing folks to the lean method. And that means going out and talking to the market and learning what they have to say. We have a number of ways that we continue to keep our community engaged, including monthly calls and a newsletter. And we will work with entrepreneurs as long as they continue to need assistance. So we started our program about 3 years ago, and we're still working with some of those same companies that are working on their ventures. And we're very successful and have tried to make sure that we are working with as many Virginia-based companies as possible. So over the past 3 years, we've worked with over 560, and they've gone on to raise a little over $36 million in follow-on capital. And our program is no cost, it's confidential, and it's primarily focused on your success. So we're here to be the support mechanism. The practices that I'll talk about today are applicable to any business, but our program is specifically focused on entrepreneurs who are looking to commercialize technology or have some sort of innovation. And the startup process, at least within a technology realm, starts with, getting an idea, working to understand what the market needs, validating a business model, how you're actually going to generate revenue and create profit. It's only then when you really transition into the startup phase. That's when you're starting to do pilots or early sales and expand on a limited basis. Once you start to establish a beachhead market, an initial market, and start to grow, that means you're getting into the growth phase and market expansion. And then you are at some point, that could be 6 months, it could be 6 years, it could be 10 years, looking for an exit. So a way for those who invested to get their money back. And that's either through being purchased by another company or if you go public. There are a number of different funding mechanisms across that path. So during the research or ideation phase, all the way through customer discovery and business model validation, grants, both regional, state, and federal grants, are supposed to provide funding for risky ventures to make sure that you know what you need, how it's going to work, and how you're going to be successful. That transition into an area called the Valley of Death for funding, where there's not a lot of funding, and that's generally used where people are bootstrapping or people are going to friends and family to make sure that they are getting some money to bridge the gap. Once you do start to get some early sales, that's when seed funding, angels, or folks like CIT, the Center for Innovative Technology, come into play. And after at least 1 or maybe 2 rounds of that, that's when you get into larger venture capital or private capital prior to an exit.
Hey, Josh.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe we have a question to Kanya.
Yes. So the question comes in, it says, I use Consumer Checkbook magazine to get a price range for how much local tradesmen in my area charge for their services. Is there a similar resource that shows typical startup costs for various industries in my area?
Do you mean startup costs like the price to purchase equipment, or startup costs like what you should charge customers?
I charge for their services, so I'm assuming for their services.
Okay. There's really no simple answer to that. It has to do with what the market will bear. So part of customer discovery is understanding what people are paying now. And if you are in a market that there are at least a few equal competitors, you want to understand what they are charging and then understand what your level of value creation is compared to theirs. So if, let's say you are, I'm going to use a very simple example. If you're selling cookies and the cookies that everybody else is selling have chocolate chips and yours are just plain cookies, then you want to make sure that your pricing is directly related to what the consumer is looking for. So if they're buying chocolate chip cookies and they are not interested in paying the same amount of money for a cookie that doesn't have chocolate chips, you want to make sure that you're priced under it. However, if you have chocolate chips, but you also have little peanut butter chocolate chips or peanut butter chips in there as well, and you have, again, gone into the market and they have stated that, I want something more than just a chocolate chip cookie, but I'm not finding it out there, then you can actually price above what your competitors are doing because you're creating additional value for that customer. And that is a complete
example, Josh. Love that.
Perfect.
Yes,
it's
so
extremely simple. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And not knowing what business you're in, I wouldn't want to fare to guess with something more complex, but it really comes down to that simple idea of what does the market want? What are they paying for it now? And then how much value above or under that are you creating, and then try to price accordingly. Again, things like that, I would definitely recommend reaching out to your local small business development center office. They can give you access to a number of different industry tools to learn about not only prices in the market, but the internal structure and costs. So I would definitely recommend pursuing the Small Business Development Center. Before I get back into it, are there any other questions?
No, but I would share with Takanya, definitely shop your competitors too, and or reach out to one of your competitors and ask them. I know it might be a little intimidating if they're competing with you, but I see it all the time. You reach out to your competitors, ask them. A lot of times they love to help, and folks love to talk about their business. So pick their brains, do your research. with your competitors too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. So for those who are looking for investment specifically, and this also has some level of applicability for folks who are looking for loans, you want to make sure that you have that validated business model, that you know it's not based off of assumptions, but you've gone out and talked to the market. I won't get into how you do that today, but if folks are interested, I'm happy to provide some assistance after we're done today. You want to make sure that you have a team that can execute on that business model, and you want to create the least featured prototype of your product that's market ready. And the purpose of that is to highlight the fact that you're solving a particular problem that that person has. So again, I can get more into that on an individual basis on what that would mean for you if you want to follow up with me. You want to get some early pilots or sales and show that you have pipeline growth so that they know that if they're investing, that people actually want this. And then making sure that you're securing the partners that are needed in order to get you to the market. That can be an investor, that can be a channel partner, that can be somebody who's a distributor, or someone who's going to help partner with you to help sales. So a number of different ways that you want to make sure that you've got the people in place and the partnerships in place to find success. The model that we use, like I mentioned, is lean startup. And that was originally coined as a phrase by Eric Ries, that's R-I-E-S, and he wrote the book, The Lean Startup. There's another gentleman called Steve Blank, and he wrote the Startup Owner's Manual. And these are two of, in my opinion, the best resources to better understand the concept of lean startup, going out, understanding the market, knowing what people are doing about it now and how they're solving that existing problem. And then from there, making sure that you are putting something into the market that is actually needed and it's hitting on the key points that they're looking for.
Hey, Josh, what was that second book? So the first one was Lean Startup, and the second one?
The Startup Owner's Manual.
Okay.
And one of the things that people may not realize is the number one reason that startups fail, out of a poll done by CB Insights, which is a major startup organization, is that 42% said that they created a product that nobody actually wanted. And the reason that this is a big issue is that most people think about creating and launching a business from either a product, primarily a product-centric focus, and not a customer-centric focus. This even happens when you create a venture based off of solving a problem that you have. Traditionally, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, people would have an idea, they would create a business plan, they would go get money, then they would build their thing and they would pay their own salary, and then they would go to the market only to find out if people liked it or not. And this really emphasizes that the business plan is the most important element if it doesn't include a clear understanding of what the market need is. Business plans are very important for small businesses. I don't want to create the impression that they're not, but you need to make sure that the information that you're putting in there is validated information and not assumptions. The second piece in this old model is that it's heavily focused on the assumptions from the inventor of what the market is actually needing. And for our program in Lean Startup, it's about making the customer the center of your business universe. And this process never ends. You have to always make sure that you understand what the market is looking for, because if it shifts and you're not prepared, your business can suffer. And I think that one of those things that we're learning through the pandemic is that if you're a small business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a startup, that if you weren't prepared to be able to shift to a virtual capacity or an e-commerce capacity, your business was going to suffer more so than it would have otherwise through the pandemic. So it's really important to make sure that the customer is always the most important thing.
Hey,
so
Josh.
I'm unmuted. Do you have another question?
Yeah,
Perfect.
I actually have one. So you referenced multiple times knowing your stuff, right? And knowing what's happening in the market that you're in. Are you able to share any resources on how people go about doing that? So where is the first place they should go to understand what might be happening in the world? Is it the Wall Street Journal? Is it like what publications or websites are out there, at least to get folks started on the first path of understanding the market?
Absolutely. So the first is, like you were saying, primary research, going out, going online, reading as much as you can to understand. That is only the very, very, very top layer. The next piece is when you want to talk about hustle, this is where you need it. Actually going out and talking to potential customers. So the way that is done is talking about what their stories are. So if you're looking to create for, let's say you've developed a software for small businesses and their accounting. So it's about going to some small businesses and saying, hey, I'm interested to learn more about what you do for your back office and accounting. Can you share that with me? And don't bring anything up about your business, because as soon as you do, you lose that unbiased note from or information from the prospective client, because they think that you're trying to sell them something. So you really want to get their stories, and you will be surprised about how much information that's really insightful that they're going to give you. So if they talk about, well, I use QuickBooks and here's how I do it and here's how long it takes me, but I really don't like that I have to do X or Y. That is an incredible amount of information that you can use in order to inform the product that you need to deliver. Because especially if you're going into a market where you have a competitor that overwhelmingly can crush you, you have to show how the little guy can make the product that much better, because you are really looking at solving a specific problem in the market. So you got to get out there, you talk to a lot of people. Our program, for our 2-week introductory program, we have you talk to 20 people, but ultimately you don't really even start to learn anything until 40, because one, you got to start to learn how to go through this process. Then you have to start to gain the insights and see patterns that emerge. And it's through those patterns that you're actually able to make real business advice. And, we don't work with many people who are looking for small business loans, because they're generally looking for investment. But these are key pieces that if you can go into a meeting with a loan officer that says, I've talked to 100 people and they have all said this is a problem. After I met with those people, I developed my product and I've gone back to them and I have an 80% closure rate. That's something that they're going to want to see, because it validates that you've created a business model that's workable.
And Josh, they'll have more confidence in you as well to want to do further work with you, because they know you've done your research.
Absolutely. And anybody who's looking for grant funding, especially from the federal government, there's 2 sections in an executive summary, which is generally the first part that you need to submit. One is a technical description. So how does your thing do its thing? And then the next part is commercialization. And if you don't have a really clear plan, you're not going to move forward. And there's something called a Small Business Innovation Research Grant, SBIR or SBIR for the DoD. And they have a 10% awardee rate. So out of all the people that apply, only 10% are getting awarded. And through going through programs like ours, you increase that to 40%. And it's a really, really high bar in order to get grant funding, because everybody's looking for grant funding, especially now. So it's really important to have those key elements.
What was that called? Small business?
SBIR. And I have just a couple things that I'll finish up with. So the new business model, and I kind of went through this just now, it's you have an idea, you go out and you talk to customers, you then create a validated business model, and we use a business model canvas, which is very helpful. Then you create that prototype of your thing that you've created, your widget. You get those early sales. That proves that you have a model that people would be interested in. That's when you start to get investment. And it's not $10 million. It's probably $100,000 or $250,000. And it's only enough for that investor to be seeing that you are able to get, maybe you started with 10 customers. They want that money to help get you to 100. And then once you get 100, they'll maybe give you 500,000 so that you can get to 500 customers, and you grow from there. It's not this one big check. And I can get into some detail if people have questions about that later. And ultimately, there's 2 big things when you are developing a business model. You have problem solution fit, and that means that you have a customer and they have a problem, and then you have found the solution that results in a benefit to them. But that's not the only piece. The next piece is actually getting to product market fit, and that's having that problem solution fit with a sufficiently large validated market to sustain a business. So if you find that you found 10 people to buy the thing that you wanted to sell, that's great. But if there are only 10 people in the world who want it, then you've tapped out your market. That's not a sustainable business. So it's really important to find those two elements with your business. For anybody who's interested in learning more, I believe information on our program and a couple other resources are going to be shared. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you to resources or talk more about our program. And then if there are any other questions now, I'm happy to answer those.
Takanya, anything in the chat to ask?
No questions at this time. I think you've covered everything that we had as far as questions, but I'm sure we'll have some more as we go forward, but none at this time.
Perfect.
Derek, are you raising your hand or you're clapping?
Oh, no, I was just great stuff, Josh and Amber. Definitely some good insight. Learned a lot already. So thank you.
Don't you love how simplified it is, right?
Until you get into it.
I know, right?
But this is definitely helpful. Even the examples you gave, I feel like it really put things in perspective to really understand how to do it. So that was really helpful. So we're going to go ahead and transition over to Domenick. Are you ready, Domenick?
Yeah, let's get it. I need a DJ to put that music back on for me. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some questions in the chat, right? And if you all can, I would like for you all to answer these questions. And it is, what time do you wake up? What industry are you in? What time do you have to be at work? What time do you take a break? The scheduled break, right? What time do you get off? And what is your job description? If you all can answer all of them, great. If you can answer a few of them, fantastic, that's fine. But basically, I just want you all to touch on those, right? And then can you add me to be able to share my screen? I just want to be able to put up something real quick. If not, no big deal. All right.
So let's go ahead and get those answers in the chat.
Yeah, let's get them in. Come on. What time?
We want to know who's on the call. Let's do it.
What time do you wake up? All right. What industry are you in? What time you have to be at work? What time you take a break? And what time do you get off? And basically, what is your job description? All right. Now, while you are doing this, here's the reason why I propose these questions. First off, let me tell you a little bit about myself. All right. My name is Domenick Epps. I am from a neighborhood in the city of Suffolk called Saratoga. All right. I grew up in a time during the 80s and 90s, and it was the crack epidemic. And I've seen a lot of things that most people are entertained by on television, right? It was 9 of us in a 3-bedroom roach-infested apartment. But one thing for certain is that I had dreams, and I did not allow my surroundings, my environment to dictate what I saw myself becoming in life, right? So here's what my mom used to do. My mom used to take us out on Sundays, and we used to drive through these neighborhoods and pray that the people didn't call the cops, all right? So we all got into her Tempo car that didn't have any power steering, and we would go through these neighborhoods and we would pick out which houses and claim these houses, right? So me and my brothers would be in a car and we'll say, oh, that's my house, and that was my house, right? And for 30 minutes, we took time to dream and to picture ourselves in a better situation, right? And after 30 minutes was up, we went right back to the neighborhood where there was nights where we had to fall on the floor if somebody was shooting outside or whatever the case may be, right? But here's the point I'm trying to make, is that I was determined at that age to make sure that where I was is not where I was going to stay. All right. And some of you, when you created what time you wake up, when you said, all right, this is what time I have to be at work. This is what time I have to take a break. This is what time I get off. And you identified the things that you do at work. You established a system. That is what you have, a system, right? So when you go to work, you are working for a system and not necessarily for a business. The reason why most businesses fail is they don't have a system. They get a business license, they get an EIN, they get a business bank account, but they don't have a system. And even if they have a business plan, they don't have a system. The reason why McDonald's is successful is because McDonald's has a system. The reason why Chick-fil-A, even though they're closed on Sunday and they are very successful, is because they have a system. Most people want to do business without a system. And if you don't have a system, you're really putting yourself in a position to fail. All right. Now, another question I want to propose to you all is this, right? When we talk about overcoming industry roadblocks, right? What do you identify as being a major roadblock? Put it in the chat. What would you say is a major roadblock in your industry? Real quick, let's put it, what you think? Major roadblock. Okay. Derek says the pandemic. All right. Saquana, getting people to see value to pay. All right. Competition. All right. Okay. What else we got? Everyone in the same industry. Is that a roadblock? Everyone in the same industry? Bad debt. Okay. What else? All right. So here's what I have. Here's my stance on this, right? And you know, because truth be told, I don't believe there are industry roadblocks. That's my stance. I believe there are mental roadblocks, no industry roadblocks. There are mental roadblocks, right? There are people who told themselves that they would not succeed in the middle of a pandemic. Therefore, they shut down their store. The people who told themselves that because of COVID-19, my business is not going to succeed. I don't see it as an industry roadblock. I see it as a mental roadblock, right? So because they shut themselves down in their mind, they shut down their business. And so there are people who said, hey, because I lost a loved one, because I went through a divorce, because I lost my job, they told themselves that they will not.
Oh, Dominic, you froze. Are you still there?
You have to see it from a different perspective. You have to realize that, hey, this is not a roadblock. This is just dumbbells, right? These are dumbbells. This is not a roadblock. These are dumbbells. And you have the right to either exercise your right to succeed or exercise your right to retreat. So ask yourself this question: which one am I going to do? Am I going to be determined to succeed, or am I going to make excuses, right? And you got to study to show yourself approved. Now, when it comes to being successful in business, we're talking about hustle. You got to have that grit. You got to have that grind, and you got to be determined to win and not allow anything or anyone to shut you down. And here's where it starts with. First, you got to do what the prophet Habakkuk said. You got to write the vision and you got to make it plain, right? You have to write the vision and make it plain. So what does your vision look like, right? What do you see? And you have to make sure that you write down what you see, because what you see is what's going to happen and not what others see, right? So we get interviewed a lot when we open up a cafe. And here's one of the questions that people ask: why would you open up a cafe in the middle of a pandemic? As if the pandemic is the end of the world. It's going to stop anybody from succeeding, right? And that's one of the questions that they ask. And here's what I would like to respond, right? First of all right, us opening up this business was being obedient to what I believe God told me to do, right? Secondly, there's nothing that's bigger than him. And then also, here's what I know. I can either tell myself that this business is not going to be successful, or I can hustle, grind, and allow my brain to give me a creative solution to this problem that has been presented to the world, right? And so you have to make a decision and say, listen, I'm going to be successful because I already see it. You wrote down your vision. You made it plain. You got your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, your 15-year plan, your 20-year plan. Most people have journals, they have plans, but they have no action. So what's the use of having a plan without having action? right? You can go to the bank and you can pay someone $2,000 to put you $1 million business plan together, right? But I think what the banks need to check is to check your track record. Check you. Don't look at the plan. Check who you are, right? Who are you as a person? Do you follow through? Are you lazy? Do you procrastinate, right? Because even when it comes to investing in companies, investing in stocks, do you know that the CEOs are the major people that's responsible for if their stock is going to go up or go down? The decisions that the CEO makes is the main reason that the stock goes up or go down, right? So it depends on who's leading, who's going to lead this force, right? So for those of you that's looking to be successful in business, for one, you got to write down your vision, of course, right? Make it big, make it grand. And here's another point. Don't settle for being good. Don't settle for good pay, right? Don't settle just for being in the good ranks. You want to be great. Now, what I'm about to say now is it may not resonate with everybody, right? But I am someone that, I grew up in a very, very poor environment, straight up, right? But I started my very first business at the age of 17. It wasn't a business I talked about. It was a business that I literally had. I went down to the city of Suffolk, applied for a business license, and in this 3-bedroom roach-infested apartment that before we went out the door for school, we had to shake our book bag so we don't take any uninvited guests to school, right? I opened up a business in this house, right? That was my very first business. Life went on. I found myself homeless, living in a car. But here's one thing for sure. Here's something a pandemic cannot stop. Here's something homelessness could not stop. And that is my dreams. That is my goals. That is my passion, right? So irregardless to what you are faced with in life, you have to tell yourself, whatever I'm faced with, these are dumbbells. If it's not gonna kill me, it's gonna make me stronger. And it's gonna make me go harder for what I want, right? And the only person I compete with is myself. I don't have competition. I compete with myself. I don't compete with Starbucks. I don't compete with any other cafes or any other real estate brokerages. I compete with myself, right? Because my goals are so big that they're not even on my level. That's how I see it, right? So you have to be determined to win against all odds, Now, I know, there's referencing in regards to before you leave your job, right? You want to make sure that your business is putting you in a position where you have financial stability, all right? I'm a little different, okay? I understand from a lender standpoint that you need to have, 2 years tax returns and you need to be able to show that you have income, all right? Here's my stance. Part-time output is going to give you part-time input, right? So if you have a business and you give your business 2 hours a day, but you give your job 16 hours a day, then your job is going to be the one that succeeds. And your business is not going to succeed. For me, this is what it looked like. For me, I had a nice position at Pepsi Cola, moving up the ranks, right? And I was a great salesman, made great money. And then I got into an industry that I was excited about, which was real estate. And I knew that I had to be at Pepsi at my first location at 4:30 in the morning, right? I knew that I had to work 12 to 14 hours a day. But I also knew that that's not what I wanted to do the rest of my life. I also knew that, hey, you know what? I'm making them rich and my family is going to have to suffer when my back and my legs and my arms is tore up, right? And I knew that, hey, this is not what I'm going to be doing the rest of my life. So what are you going to do, Dominic? You're going to have to make a decision. So I prayed. I said, God, tell me when I can leave this job. When can I leave and do what I know I'm supposed to be doing full time? So I gave my job a 4-month notice. I didn't have, reserves in the bank. I didn't have, large amount in 401k. I didn't have any of that, but I had passion and I had determination, right? So my story is a little different. I gave them a 4-month notice because I wanted to be able to train someone you know, because I was there for about 7 years, going on 8 years, and I wanted to be able to train someone to be able to take over and transition smoothly, right? You always want to leave a place in a good place. You don't want to leave a place in a bad place, because if I had to go back, I would be able to go back, right? So I left them in a good place. And I would never forget, my supervisor said to me, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure you're going to leave this secure paying job? You get paid every single week. Are you sure you're going to leave this and go into something that's not guaranteed?" And I looked him straight in his eyes and said, "Yes, sir." And he kept talking to me again. And then, of course, here it goes. I could have settled for good, because they know your worth. They know your value more than you do, right? So anytime you're ready to leave a good place, here comes the challenge. Well, we're going to offer you more money. We're going to give you more position. People that settle for good is going to take that position. People that settle for good is going to take that pay raise. You can't settle for good if you're destined to be great. So I was destined for greatness, not just to be good, right? So I looked him in his face, in his eyes, and I said to him what God told me to. And he respected that. 4 months notice, left full time, of course, after discussing with my wife. And I will tell you that there were dumbbells in the road, not roadblocks. There were dumbbells, because I had to go through the challenges of not having the money that we had. I had to go through the challenges of our house almost going up for foreclosure, our lights almost getting cut off. But here's what I told myself. And here's where, you know, the rubber meets the road. If I had to be at Pepsi at 4:30 in the morning, why is it when I start my own business, I start at 8 o'clock? Why give them better time than I would give myself? So I changed the time I woke up. I changed the time I started my day. If I have to be at work at 4:30 for someone else, I gotta be at work at 4 o'clock or 3:30 for myself. And it changed. So are you willing to give yourself more than what you're giving somebody else? That's the question you have to ask yourself, right? Are you willing to go hard? Are you willing to use those roadblocks that someone else sees and say, you know what, these are my dumbbells? Like, and quitting is not an option. Quitting is not an option. And even if you fail at something one time, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. I mean, just look at some of the greatest inventors. Check their record. Check how many times they failed before they succeeded. Check how many times Abraham Lincoln was not elected before he got elected, right? So when you do your research, you realize that failure is not the end of the story. It's just a dumbbell to get you where you're trying to get to, right? So you have to be willing to give it everything you got. You got to be willing to put in the work. You got to be willing to study to show yourself approved and not accept good when you know that you're great. This is Domenick Epps, and that's all I got for you. Boom!
Say that one more time. Boom! There you go. Wow. Wow. Verlaine, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get up and start running to go start some business somewhere.
Yes, definitely extremely motivated. Checking myself on this Saturday. I do want to say thank you to the panel for everything that you guys shared today. And would you guys be able to drop your information in the chat so that people can get connected with you? We will be also sharing some information for everyone that attended or signed up today. But for those that want to hop on and reach right out to the panelists, you'll have that direct access once they share their information as well. And Lakeisha, do you want to kind of transition into closing?
Yes, I'm going to turn it over to Gail, who's our secretary for the NAMIC-Virginia chapter. So Gail, close us out.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you, Lakeisha. What a great way to start our Saturday. So I want to thank Lakeisha Lang and Verlaine Quinney for graciously leading us through this dynamic discussion. I also want to thank our phenomenal panelists of leaders in the business and finance industry for sharing your knowledge and time with us today. Domenick Epps, Amber Rice, and Josh Green. You have provided us with a myriad of new business and financial nuggets that we can all utilize going forward. Also want to thank our NAMIC-Virginia members, along with the Connect 757 team, and all attendees for joining us this morning. Please join NAMIC-Virginia for our upcoming events. So up next, we have Let's Talk About It, Join the Movement and Become an Ally, and that will be held on April the 28th between 1 and 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is in partnership with the Lotus ERG. And then we have our next event, Living with Honor, Cultivating a Life of Resiliency, with our panelist, Philip Brashear, who is actually sharing his father's life, called Brashear, from which the movie Men of Honor was made. I'm sure many of you know that. And this will be on May the 11th. Also, please join the Connect 757 for their upcoming events, the first of which will be Melanin Reads Book Club, which will be held on April the 25th, tomorrow, and they will be reading Lead from the Outside by Stacey Abrams. And then for their next event, it's a virtual happy hour that will be held on April the 30th, entitled Shaking and Stirred. And to find out more information about our NAMIC-Virginia and the Connect 757, please visit our websites and follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. With that, everyone have a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we hope to see you at a future NAMIC or the Connect 757 event.
And in the words of Domenick, boom, go get your hustle on.
Boom.
Boom.
Love it.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.